Jordan here in West Virginia at Luzader Diner. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. We're around Flatwoods, Sutton, I believe. And this is day 13 of our reporting trip. We were here yesterday too, and I think that really the only attention West Virginia is getting in the media per se is Joe Manchin. But there's a lot of, let's just say, rot behind Manchin, the state Democratic Party here, just politics in general here, that has led West Virginia to be one of the most poor states in the country, with water problems, high rates of cancer, high rates of poverty, and as we were talking about, 70,000, nearly 70,000 people leaving the state over the last few years. So we're going to get into all that. And I've always thought, as a journalist, you don't first go to talk to politicians or experts. You go to talk to residents, activists, because they pretty much know where the bodies are buried. And I would say Selena Vickers, Pam Garrison, longtime activist trying to reform the state party here. You're with the Poor People's Campaign. Yes. We're just up there getting arrested. Yes. In D.C., along with Paula Jean Swearingen, so we're going to talk about that. I reported, I think like 2 weeks ago, about a really awful meeting of the West Virginia State Executive Committee, basically the leaders of the West Virginia Democratic Party. Essentially, that the main priority agenda item was to vote on an affirmative action plan, but they kind of forgot to let the black folks in the meeting and let black people in the state party actually have a say in the affirmative action meeting. So I know you have a lot to say about that, but I want to start with Manchin, because I think the state party and just how things work here, a lot of that starts with Joe Manchin, who's been a senator here for a long time. I want to start because the media narrative is that Manchin is just, you know, he could only, this is what he has to do. He has to obstruct, you know, eliminating the filibuster. He has to try to water down legislation because, you know, the infrastructure bill, for example, that was already inadequate. Now it's down to $1 trillion, and 500 billion is actually new money. The rest is just an accounting gimmick. That he has to do that because it's a Republican state. But the truth is, it's becoming a more and more Republican state because of Joe Manchin and because of the state Democratic Party. What got you first involved in basically fighting to reform the party, and what has been your learnings on Mr. Manchin's role here?
Okay, so
don't hold back.
Okay. I was one of those people that was really brought into, I mean, I'd always been sort of like politically active in terms that I would vote or I would pick a bill that I cared about. But what really got me excited about politics was in 2015 when I saw some kind of quote about that Bernie Sanders had made. I can't remember exactly. I think it was something about health care for all. And it was like, well, who's Bernie Sanders? And then so when I learned about him and that this man was running for president, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy has to be president. This is exactly what this country needs. And I didn't agree with 100% like everything that was Bernie Sanders, but the thing that I was very much drawn to was that he was running for president and not taking any campaign finance, I mean like any PAC money at all. Like his campaign finance thing was like from everyday people. And so to me, that was like the core of fixing all the problems that we had, to like get that corporate money out and just be from the people. And so we worked very, very hard in West Virginia. Bernie was extremely popular in West Virginia. As we talked about earlier, he won every single county. And but I was a delegate for him at the National Convention. West Virginia went to Hillary Clinton at the convention, and that's because of superdelegates. So even though he won all counties, even though Hillary Clinton only won 36% of the vote, West Virginia went to Hillary. And that was all because there were 8 superdelegates. Joe Manchin had lined those superdelegates up. So what that said to people in West Virginia was, don't bother to go vote, because we don't care about what you want. We don't care about what the policies and the people that you want in office. Us 8 people are going to rig this to ignore you and do what we want to have happen. And so, like, that to me was a moment of, man, our system is really messed up. How can 8 people take away the votes of thousands and thousands of people? So one of the things that happened good at that national convention, this 2016 national convention, is we passed a resolution calling for the formation of a Unity Reform Commission. And so that commission was put in place to do reform, look at reforms around caucuses, primaries, superdelegates, and basically party rules. So I started going to those meetings and advocating for, like, telling them what happened in West Virginia because of superdelegates. So basically people were like, our vote doesn't count, we're not even going to go out and do anything. People could not get out the vote for Hillary. People voted for Trump, and down ballot voted for Republicans. And then our entire legislative system was controlled by really bad Republicans, basically. And so I wanted them to understand that there was a down ballot effect that they did not consider, that they really needed to consider. So they did their report. They handed it off to the Rules and Bylaws Committee. I know this is very inside baseball, but this is the way things work. They handed it off to DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. They looked through the commission.
So the state party did a report.
National party.
Okay.
This is national. So they did a report, handed off to the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, and then they would, like, pick those recommendations and say, all right, well, we're going to put this in party rules here. We're going to put this in the ballot. That's how they do it. And they have very long meetings. And so what I learned by going to all those meetings and live streaming, because people don't know that what happens, what I was able to do is learn the rules. And so I learned how to file a grievance. I learned how to file a challenge. And more importantly, what I learned is that the DNC charter and bylaws have very inspirational things in there about what the Democratic Party is supposed to do, about notice of meetings, about inclusion of people from underrepresented groups, around voter participation. That was not done in West Virginia. And so then I kind of set off on a track of, hey, West Virginia, we have all these rights that are given to us in the charter that we don't know about. And so then I began filing, me and some other grassroots reformers began filing a series of challenges based on them not following either the charter or the bylaws, other party rules, or their own bylaws. And what I found out was, so everything I just told you is fact. The part of it that is that my theory is that it was intentionally done to keep a few insiders in control of the party. And those insiders, just so you know, are extremely loyal to Joe Manchin. Some of them, that it has been said, I can't prove it, but said that they are related to him. But regardless of that, very loyal to him. And that they've manipulated these rules to keep these people in power and everybody else off center. And so that's been kind of like my goal over the last several years. And we've had a lot of wins, actually. I mean, it's a struggle, but we've had an enormous amount of wins by just filing challenges and pushing on the rules.
And what I find kind of political malpractice, if a party's goal is to win, I'm not sure if the Democratic Party's goal is, that's the top priority. So if the state was blue for a very long time. Was it
100 years.
100 years was a Democratic state. It starts shifting, I don't know, in the 2010s, right. Then in 2016, you have this, Jewish socialist winning every county in West Virginia on basically an economic populist message and that it's all rigged. I don't know if the state Democratic Party we assume they're not morons, was able to read, the tea leaves here, they would see, wow, maybe if we actually push really progressive economic politics rather than, just bumper stickers and woke diversity. Maybe we could actually reach a lot of those conservative voters that were hoodwinked by Trump or, state level Republicans, but they didn't do that. Instead, it seems they continue to basically maintain kind of Republicans or worse, vote for us. And Manchin seems to be kind of at the top of that list. I know you met with Manchin earlier this year. Is there certain financial reasons maybe that Joe Manchin and the state party here don't seem to want to embrace that populist message that Bernie was very successful with here?
I think instead of trying to win, they're just complacent with the system, the way things are, and just let's not rock the boat. We'll give you what you want, and I think it's all just got to be one big party now. Where do they stand on principles? What are you willing to stand up and fight for? Is your party's principles and stuff worth fighting for or not? And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen the Democrats step up and fight for what is right and what they really believe in and the democratic principles.